Now to politics. Rishi Sunak says he is prepared to go against the House of Lords and push his legislation on illegal channel crossings through Parliament.
Now this comes after peers threatened to delay the bill until an impact assessment is published.
Well, joining us now is Fraser Myers, Deputy Editor of Spike. Good morning to you. Look, he said yesterday, didn't he, that he was prepared to do whatever it takes. We've seen him sort of flirting with the idea of leaving the ECHR, and now he's flirting with the idea of ignoring the upper chamber.
Yeah, so whether this is a bit of posturing, let's find out. It's no secret that the House of Lords, which has an anti-Tory majority, which is a kind of a strange situation where, you know, the government, whether we like it or not, was elected on quite a large majority. So it struggles to get a lot of its bills through. They are implacably opposed to every kind of piece of migration legislation that this government has put forward. They've aimed to water it down, they've aimed to delay it. And as you alluded to, Isabel, you know, a lot of the time, these policies are essentially being hindered by non-democratic forces, whether that's the House of Lords, whether that's the ECHR, or lefty lawyers, as Suella Braverman would call them. A lot of these policies are being blocked, often, you know, whether they for good reasons in some cases. You know, the illegal migration bill is very, very strict, very, very illiberal. The Rwanda policy has all kinds of raises all kinds of problems with people being sent off to a third country. That, you know, there are reasons to criticise that, but there is also a problem that this debate has been taken out of the arena of democracy and into kind of legalism. And Rishi Sunak, you know, is obviously making a play of standing up for the people, standing up for the people's interests. Most people do want to see certainly an end to the small boats crisis. And he can also say, I mean, he's also trying to say that he's making progress on this issue. So there's been a fall in the number of people around this time up to this point compared to last year.
Although Nigel Farage very keen to point out it's been, well, the wettest March on record.
That is true.
Extremely windy and comparably poor weather with last year.
So to what extent do we blame the weather rather than credit the government is an important question. And we're about to come up to the summer, which is actually the main season for this trafficking. You know, last year, 50% of all the arrivals came between June and September. So he's conveniently picked a time to say, look, my plan is working. I mean, there are some indications of success. There's been a slight uptick in the number of people being intercepted by the French, so Rishi Sunak will be able to say, look, my French deal is working.
Huge cost. 480 million?
Yeah, at a huge cost for about a 10 percentage point increase in the number of arrivals, only about 50% at the moment. Let's see that plummet when the arrivals really start to pick up this summer. There's also been a drop in the number of Albanians coming over again, so Rishi Sunak will be able to say, look at my deal I've done with the Albanians. They're now being fast-tracked for deportation if they're caught. But overall, you know, this problem still remains, and on the horizon, we also have, you know, we will also find out in the coming days whether the Rwanda policy is legal. There's going to be a Court of Appeal judgment on that. I think they put a lot of hope, possibly a lot of false hope in this policy, you know, even putting aside the criticisms of around human rights and things like that. There's not necessarily an indication that it will work. I mean, we've seen similar schemes tried in Australia. That had to be scrapped in 2017. A, because it wasn't working, but B, because the camps were badly run.
Here's the question. People listening and watching are sitting thinking, are you for us or are you against us? Why don't you care more about your own country than you care about things that are happening in the wider world? And that is the message, I suppose, Sunak's putting out. He's saying, look, I'm trying to do this thing. But all these people who are objecting, be it the House of Lords, be it lefty lawyers, be it whoever, seem to put, rightly or wrongly, the needs of the rest of the world ahead of the needs of their own local authorities and what they can pay and what they can afford and what the country can afford as well. So, is Rishi Sunak relying on that, if you're not for me, you're against me attitude?
Well, yeah, I think that's the framing that he thinks could claw him back some support. You know, the government is a little bit exhausted. It's behind in the polls. Even in terms of migration, if you look at the polling, actually the public trusts Labour more by 10 percentage points, which is an extraordinary state of affairs, considering they've said very little on these issues. And I think
one would imagine Labour would be more liberal in the policy.
One would imagine so, but then Keir Starmer is obviously trying to change Labour's image.
Win back the red wall.
Win back the red wall. So Labour has been saying, they haven't given any policy details, as ever, but they are saying that Rishi Sunak's lost control of the situation. So they are trying to have a go on this issue.